Hey guys, Josh here from Daily Mountain Bike Rider, and today is an important lesson because that is all about how to bunny hop. Bunny hopping is one of the most essential skills you can learn on a mountain bike because it's the gateway to so many things. Learning how to go off small jumps, learning how to go on a trail faster, and eventually working your way up to going off big jumps and over big obstacles. So here are my top 5 tips on how you can become a better bunny hopper. And my hope is from this video that you will find that it's a pretty easy skill to learn as long as you're willing to practice. All right, so first, before we talk about bunny hopping, let's talk about setup. First things first, any bike that you have, the thing you're gonna wanna do is get that seat low. You're gonna want it out of the way because your butt is gonna spend a lot of time over the rear wheel, and you don't want your seat getting caught up on you when you're trying to get up there. Second thing you can do, you're gonna see as we get to tips 3 and 4 that I'm gonna be using these blocks. All these are 2x4s. I cut them up into, they're about a foot long each. And these are super great tools because you can stack them up and try to jump over them. And if you fail, there's no consequences for it. So these are a couple things I use for how to bunny hop. You don't need tools like this and pieces of wood, but it definitely helps. All right, so here are my 5 tips. Tip number 1 is simply this. Practice getting your front wheel up. And not only that, but practice getting it up with good form. So often when I see people going off of a jump or trying to bunny hop and they're not successful at it, it's usually because they haven't figured out how to get their weight back, and in turn how that helps get your front wheel up. So what you need to work on is this. Instead of getting your front wheel up by pulling with your arms like you can see me doing here, you need to practice shifting your weight backwards. What that looks like is when your feet are level, you need to come down to the saddle and back over the rear wheel. And when you do that, you're gonna be pulling on the bars so that you don't fall backwards, and it's gonna pull your front wheel up. It's the same exact motion as you use when you do a manual, and it's crucially important when you're learning how to bunny hop. So tip number 1 is you've gotta master the motion of getting your front wheel up off the ground. Now, no surprise, tip number 2 is practice getting your rear wheel off the ground. I see a lot of people who can't bunny hop, and I realize that they don't actually know how to get their back wheel up off the ground. Now, here's something you need to understand, is I have people ask me all the time, how do you get your wheel up and move it around like that with just your feet and flat pedals? And here's what I tell them. It's actually hardly your feet at all. Now, your feet are important, but here's the truth. If you try to get your back wheel up just by using your feet, you're not gonna be able to do it. You'll just jump off the pedals. What it is it's 2 things. First off, it's pointing your toes down, so once the back wheel starts coming up, you can grip and push it with your foot. But the most important thing is you're pushing forward on your handlebars. When you unweight your back wheel and lean forward, what you're doing is you push your handlebars forward and you scoop your feet a little bit to help bring the rear wheel up. Now I'm demonstrating this a couple of times, and this is a skill that you have to know how to do, because if you can only get your front wheel up, you're not gonna be able to jump over an obstacle because your back wheel is gonna stay on the ground. Okay, now after you've done that, figured out how to get the front wheel up well and the back wheel up, then tip number 3 is pretty simple, is string it together. This is where you can bring in an obstacle or two, and what you want to do is practice going over that obstacle front wheel first and then your rear wheel. And remember to make sure you have good technique for getting that front wheel up. Because what you're gonna find is if you do the technique properly to get your front wheel up, your weight's gonna be back here with your front wheel up, and when you go to pull the rear wheel up, you have a ton of room to push your weight forward, bring that rear wheel up, and you'll quickly see how easy it is to do the bunny hop motion. Now, start small with maybe a small obstacle, and then work your way up. And that leads me to tip number 4, is work your way up slowly and use a curb if you have one around. Bunny hopping on flat ground is good, but you have to realize that the goal of bunny hopping isn't just to jump over an obstacle like a 2x4 that's 6, 7, 8 inches high. A lot of times bunny hopping is because you're going off a jump and need to level out, or you're jumping onto something that has a higher elevation to it like a curb. And so using your bunny hop on something like a curb, practicing in different areas like on wood, or even practicing your bunny hops on inclines, that's gonna really teach you how to get that front wheel and rear wheel into the air at the same time in all sort of circumstances. And once again, you're learning the essential skill that's gonna help you in a bunch of other areas. So after you've figured out how to get the front wheel up properly, get the rear wheel up, put them together, and you've tried it all around, the last thing is patiently practice. This is where these blocks come in, and every now and then I'll pull these out in my neighborhood and I'll just practice my bunny hops. And as you can see in these videos, what I'm practicing is how can I go over this obstacle by putting my front wheel down first, or putting both wheels down at the same time, and even my rear wheel down first. And all of this is working on bike control. And the more you can jump over an obstacle with different wheels hitting the ground, it just means you're gonna master it more and more. So those are my 5 tips to work on the bunny hop. And here's my encouragement. Before you try to go off any big jumps, make sure you have this dialed. It is an entry essential skill you have to have. And really the biggest thing that it takes is practice and dedication. If this video helped you out, do me a favor and just click that like button down below. And if you haven't yet, make sure you click the subscribe button over here. Helps me out a ton and keeps you up to date on all my how-to videos. And my next one is gonna be how to jump a mountain bike. And the first tip I'm gonna let you know is learning how to bunny hop. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you later. But don't forget, make sure you go and ride your bike and do it every single day.